Hey guys, so today I'm making a video about IOTA seeds. This has been recently a very hot topic due to all those seed generators and funds got stolen. So I thought it's a good time to make a YouTube video and explain to newcomers as well as old guys in depth how the seeds work, what are they, and how to create a good seed. All right. So Stuart sadly is not available this week, so I'm alone. But the presentation is good, so hopefully you will enjoy it. And put any questions or comments below, so we can make our future videos more in touch with what you guys think is important. All right. Let's get started. So I have a little presentation here. All right, so IOTA seeds. So what is a seed? Seed is like if we need to map it to the concepts that people are well aware of, then it's almost like 2-in-1, your username and password combined into one. And why I say that is that if somebody would have your seed, they can have an absolute control over your account, over your funds, right? So it's a super important thing to keep safe and to have a good one in order to protect yourself. Of course, some people will say that it's not actually username and password. It's much more than that, but this is just something to help to mind map this concept to people who are not too technical. But we'll get into technical stuff. So 2-in-1. All right. So what is the seed made of? Seed is made out of those 26 characters plus number 9. So they all are capital letters, and then the number 9 there is a bit looks like an oddball, but there is basically 27 numbers, 27 different characters, which is basically 3 times 3 times 3. Later you see that everything about IOTA is about number 3. All right. So why those 27 characters? Why is that important? Because those characters are translated into numbers. So numbers 1 to 27. And those numbers are then translating into trites. And when I first Googled trite, I actually found that trite is Norwegian for trout, the fish. But in this case, of course, we're not talking about the fish. We're talking about trite as a programming concept, which is basically like a byte, but it's made of trits, not made of bits. So if byte is made out of 2 times 2 times 2 or 8 bits, then the trite is made out of 3 times 3 times 3 bits. So that's why we get 27 instead of 8. All right. So as I said before, IOTA loves number 3. As you can see, it's everywhere. So if you look at the length of the seed, you will see quickly that it's 81 characters, which again is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which is 81 characters or trites long, because one character, as we saw before, is a trite, representing a trite. And IOTA is trinary system, means it does not use a binary, zeros and ones, but instead it uses -1, 0, and 1 for doing all the calculations. That's much more sophisticated and energy efficient when it comes to Internet of Things. That's why they decided to take this as the basis of their system. All right. So how does the seed work? If you input your seed into your wallet, then what's happening in the background? So basically, the IOTA seed is taken and an index is added by the wallet. First 0, then 1, then 2. All those iterations are being done every time you go into your wallet. So first iteration is IOTA seed with number 0 is put into an algorithm, deterministic algorithm. What is deterministic algorithm is basically like a formula that takes those variables in. One of the variables is A, let's call it IOTA seed. Another variable is B, which is an index. And it takes those A and B, and it is able to give a result that is, we call it subseed. It's basically like similar like an IOTA seed, but it's not an IOTA seed. It's a derivation of an IOTA seed based on the algorithm and based on number 0, right? So now if I put in number 1, then I get another subseed, but it's not the same as the first one. And then yet if I put number 2, I get another subseed. So all of them are completely different, but all of them are derived from this main seed. And the fun thing is that every time you do this operation, the subseed 0, subseed 1, and subseed 2 are always the same. So that's why it's called deterministic. So no matter how many times you do this operation, you will always get the same subseed out of that, same results. That's what IOTA is using to work, basically. Without that, there wouldn't be IOTA. This is a core algorithm. All right. So once we have the subseed, then what happens to subseed? We will put the subseed through a hash function. So what is hash function? Hash function is basically a function used in cryptography. And the purpose of that in a simple language is to make it a one-way street. So it would be really easy to go one way, but it would be really hard to go another way, right? So in practice, if I use a hash function on something, then it turns into something else. Every time I can turn, let's say it's A and B, right? So every time I hash A, I can turn it into B easily. But if I want to turn B back to A, it's almost impossible. And how it's done, it's used, it's done using prime numbers, multiplying two large prime numbers together to get the result. And it's really, really difficult and time consuming to find out what those two prime numbers that were multiplied were. So that's how most of the cryptography works in the world. All right. So once we hash the subseed, we get private key. This is now the key that is used to sign your transactions for that particular subseed. Sign means that this gives the power over the funds on the account. So that's very important. And obviously this is not showed publicly. This cannot be showed publicly because then everyone can steal your money. All right. So then we take the private key and we hash it again, but not once, but we do it 26 times. So this makes it almost 26 times more difficult, if not more, to get back to that one. And then we get your Tangle address. So this is the address that you put in your exchanges and give to your friends to have them transfer funds to you. This is the outcome. And as you can see, it's all determined by your seed. So if somebody would have your seed, they would have your private key and down to your address. But again, if somebody would have your address, there is such a maze of hash functions between here to get to your private key, and then again another hash function from your private key to your actual seed, right? So you can see how this is a one-way street. So essentially, yeah, the important thing to understand here is that the seed is the ultimate master key to all your addresses, to all your private keys. And anyone, if they just have your seed, they can get to all of that. And no wallet or nothing is going to protect you if you don't keep your seed safe. All right. So then what is a Tangle address that we come out of this hashing marathon? So your Tangle address contains balance. So every address contains a balance, either it's 0 or either it's bigger than 0. But there is an amount in there. And the thing with Tangle addresses is that anyone can transfer funds to an address without permission. So they don't need to ask your permission to transfer funds in there. However, if you want to get funds out of the address, then you need this private key to be able to sign the transaction out of the account, out of the address, right? And as you remember, address does not know anything about what seed it belongs to, because there is so many hashing functions between. So if you look at Tangle, then there is just a bunch of addresses. And there is no way of saying which address belongs to which seed and to who. The only way to do that is to have that seed to generate the private keys and then to try this key into the lock of an address. In essence, how it works is that, again, it's simplified. It's not an actual technical depiction of things, but if you would take your private key and hash it again 26 times, and you would end up with an address, then that means this private key is correct. If you hash the private key 26 times and you don't get into the address that you have, that you want to sign, then it's not the correct key for this address. That's basically how it works. All right, yeah, and basically, as I said before, your seed is able to regenerate all the private keys, all the addresses, and sign the transactions, outgoing transactions from an address at any time without your wallet. So anyone can write the script of code and do it just in a code level with ease. So the wallet is essentially just like a browser for the Tangle. So you don't need a wallet to actually do transactions. All right. So now that we know that how important the seed is and how it works, so let's look at some of the ways how you can protect yourself and how you can generate a seed that actually serves you well and does not get your funds stolen. So the main thing, obviously, now, this is pretty obvious after all what's happened in the recent couple of weeks, that do not use any generators for that matter, especially the online web generators that are advertised in Google. These are the worst. And also, I would go as far as to say that any random generators that are even offered by the operating systems, Linux or Mac and so forth, might also have some limitations. So I think the best way to make a seed that is completely undetermined by any algorithm known to people, is your own brain. So basically, it's your password. So you need to generate it yourself. You need to create it yourself. And if you create it yourself, the benefit is also that if you would lose a hard copy or wherever you keep it, then you will have a chance to remember it. So it's like it's called the brain wallet. Keep it in your head. If you generate it smart enough, you can actually pretty easily remember it, and nobody else can guess it. Okay. So you need to get your hands dirty and go old school. So take a piece of paper and write down 81 character passwords from the characters we saw before. So basically it's an English alphabet, caps plus number 9. So that's not that difficult, is it? So you can either do it with the dice method if you're not creative enough. So it basically means that you take, I would suggest taking 5 dice, because you need to get to number 27. Obviously you need 1 to 27. So 3 dice is only giving you 18, so that's not enough. 5 dice is a bit too much, but you can truncate a couple of numbers from the end. So if you hit those higher numbers, you can just ignore them and throw again. So basically, if you throw the dice, you just count the points and write down the letter corresponding to that in the list. So A is 3, B is 4, and so forth. Right? Because obviously, sorry, A is 5, because if you have 5 dice, right? So the minimum is 5 you can get. So A is 5, B is 6, and so forth. But even more preferred methods, in my book at least, in my opinion, is something that you can remember. And this is made out of words from multiple languages, and then done some randomizing magic on that. So let's see how to do it. So if you decide to use dice, then obviously whatever the dice say, then you go for it. But if you decide to go with the word method and brain wallet type of approach, then once you have those words written down in 81 characters, then you need to get crazy. You need to mix it up really good. So because there is such a thing as dictionary attack, where people use dictionary words in dictionary and combining them together in random order, and then doing billions and billions of variations of that. So obviously, if you just use words from dictionary, it is possible that this dictionary attack will get you. However, if you get a little bit creative and you make those words not the real words, not all of them at least, and mix up different languages, make up some of your own words, slang words, whatever, nicknames, reverse the syllables, make typos on purpose and so forth, then dictionary attack is never going to be able to solve it. So this is basically, I would recommend this as a preferred method of creating the seed, because it gives you 2 benefits. First of all, you can remember it, so you don't have the temptation to copy paste it, because you're actually able to type it in easily from your head. And if something happens, with your paper wallet or whatever, house burns down, whatnot, then you are still able to access your funds after a couple of tries at least. Because if you do it right, and if you do it something for remembering while making it complicated for others to guess it, then that's it. That's the best seed you can have, in my opinion. But of course, the key here is to mixing it up really good. So the dictionary attack is not going to get you. All right, and keep it offline. That means that I suggest never, ever, 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 whatever hash functions, whatever crypted disks or USB dongles you have, I would still suggest not using any online device to store your seed. It's just too dangerous, given everything that's going on. Even printers have malware these days, and printers have cache that can store whatever stuff you printed out. So even if you print out your seeds, somebody can hack your printer, access the cache, and pull out the copy of your seed, and you're fucked. So whatever you think is safe, it's probably not. There is probably a way of screenshotting, infecting your USB dongle, but not, right? So just be safe and be offline. That's the only thing that works for hacks is a cold storage or paper wallet or brain wallet. And as we all know, shit happens. So you should keep it at least in 3 copies offline. So again, if there is a fire, if there is a flood, whatever, catastrophe, then you don't lose it all, because that's when you most need it. So just make sure you have at least 3 copies in different locations, in different physical locations, not in one house, different rooms, but 3 different locations. I don't know, bury under the ground in a plastic box or whatever. It doesn't rot in somewhere under a tree, right? Do something that is kind of retrievable in case of disaster. All right, and also think ahead, right? So even if you have those 3 copies, and even if you, playing it super safe, if something happens to you, and you are the only one knows that where's the tree and where's the where are those seeds hidden and how to access the funds, then if you're gone, then the funds are gone and your family gonna be not benefiting from that. So you have to have some kind of system in place that they can retrieve the funds in case you're hit by a bus. All right. So just to summarize about the seeds and how to create a good one. So first of all, make it yourself. Don't be lazy. Laziness will cost you money. Will cost you everything. Go old school. Use paper. Go crazy. Don't just stick to the basics. Just try to make it unique. Try to make it unique to you. Only you can guess it. Only you can come up with this. Nobody else can. It's like a fingerprint of your mind. Stay offline, because everything can be hacked. Every single thing. Even switch off your webcam when you're writing it on a paper. Because honestly, if you would know what I know, then you would do it. Make copies. So don't rely on one copy. Again, everything can happen. And think ahead, even if you will not be here anymore, then how other people would would be able to access it. All right. So that's the presentation. So if you have any questions about the seed or anything about this presentation, then write it in the comments. I'll answer you. And yeah, I think that's it today. So talk to you again next week. Hopefully Stuart is back then, and we can have a full show about what's IOTA doing and so on. All right. Thanks a lot, guys, and see you next week. Cheers.